Ignore that. I thought I was I thought I was live. I was not live. Okay. Apparently not. No, I wasn't. Okay. That's awkward. Um, I am working on trying to set up this game. I probably should have done this beforehand, but whatever. We'll just call this my username can be like what? Some random thing. And my password can be I better not say anything out loud. Okay. That is already in use. Okay, finally. Oh, I did it. Okay. Sweet. Here we go. Turn that down a little bit. Turn this down a little bit. We're vibing. We are vibing. Okay. So, this is Pokero. I've messed around with it a little bit before. I don't know if I've done it on stream yet, though. Windows is horrible. Okay, there we go. So, there's gonna be a whole bunch of tutorial stuff, but basically, the roguelike where you can choose your Pokemon. You have a certain number of points, and you can do that. So some are worth more than others because they're, a little stronger, all that kind of stuff. But at the beginning, you don't really have a lot, and then you can, as you catch Pokemon, you get more. Not super crazy. And it's more of a backdrop anyway. We're just kind of chilling and talking on a Saturday. If somebody has any suggestions, I'm probably just going to throw a little bit of a party together. I'll probably go for like one of each. Then I'll talk about whatever. Let's do that. What? Gosh. Why is this game not? Okay. We'll see if this is actually going to happen today. Now there's no sound. Why is there no sound? Well, um, hmm, hmm, um, interesting. It's not just my headphones. I think there is sound going on. Bro. I swear. We're doing it. Okay. We have footballs? Okay. So, what did I want to talk about today? I wanted to talk about this book I've been reading called An Experiment in Criticism. We'll get some money. Yeah, might as well. Why is my controller not working right now? What in the world? I swear. It just died on me again. Oh, okay. Wait, why is it? Oh, I see. Okay, so I did choose it. Okay. Once these tutorials are over, let me see if I can just remove tutorials. That would be kind of nice, considering. Tutorials off, yes. Okay, cool. So we're just gonna try to catch a bunch of Pokemon early on, just to have a good base for a group to build off of. Yeah, we'll be better at that, and we'll catch a couple guys. In Experiment and Criticism, C.S. Lewis is talking about how to decide what a good book is versus a bad book. Interesting. Okay, well, actually, let's invest in a potion for Squirtle real fast. Keep him alive. Adding the levels. Levels a good way to go. Had a little bit of money. Just keeping that. Good eye on that. Really looking at Pokemon wise. 2 flying types. Halo is not amazing. It'd be nice to have a Meowth. We'll go that way. And then I'm gonna lower the volume of the music, I think. I think that's closer to a vibe. I think that's nice. Let me know in chat if there's any difference needed, but I think right now we're sticking to one Pokemon. I'm trying to find a way to stay concentrated enough to, like, kind of get a move on with my thoughts, but in An Experiment in Criticism, C.S. Lewis kind of lays out a vision of how we could talk about books, and I think we can expand it to art in a good way that doesn't kind of constantly go back to the idea that we all need to say one book is good or one book is bad. Like, can we do something more than that? Can we talk about books in a more productive way, or literature in a more productive way? We can do this. Let's just get Mudkip out, start getting some levels on him. Just while we don't have an EXP all. And might as well use a Pokeball worker. And he starts it out trying to lay out this image of what this looks like, and it's a very should we Good at defense, bad at special defense. No, I don't think he's worth it right now. No, he has some good heavies. We'll do that for your... Well, it's really good. Eventually. Let's try and catch it. Holy crap. Let's hope that's enough. Yeah, let's see if we can make a room for it. I think Rattata can probably switch him out for Rattata. I know Rattata had some good stats. We'll throw a potion on him. A soup bell and score bunny for now. Go with that. And fundamentally, like C.S. Lewis is trying to lay out this vision of like how can we be better about oh no, this is not a good lineup. Yeah, let's... I know we're gonna be back on our pace, but this might be the better way to go. And the way he does that is talks about readings. Like how some people have one reading of a book and other people have a different reading. And how it's important to evaluate the reading and not evaluate the book itself. Because if you don't have a good reading, you're not going to like it. But then he does make a distinction that the only people you should really pay attention to for the readings are the people who, in your insight, have proven to have, you know, to be good readers. to know what they're talking about when they're talking about literature. To be able to dig deep into literature. And so if there's someone you trust who knows what they're talking about when they're talking about the quality of a book or something like that, right? Who really care about art, and they find something good out of it, then it's worthwhile listening to what they have to say about it. Their reading is worthwhile. And so he lays this all out, and I think this is something that I want to make a video on and talk about more, and so this is my excuse to talk about it. How about we buy a potion? We'll get a rare candy, and we'll start giving some levels around. Get Bulbasaur or something on the back end. Oh, Fido. Does he have anything good for this? We'll send him out just so he can get some training. There we go. Okay, cool. And so in many ways this, I'll have to change the settings for that. Okay. There's a lot of things in this where changing the settings seems to be necessary. HP bar speeds, just skipping EXP gains, just do level of notifications. Yeah, that looks good. And I'll just skip to Squirt Bunny. I'm just gonna pick this out. So he talks about this, and I thought that, you know, why not apply this to other media, right? He talks about literature, specifically like books or any written form. He almost seems hesitant to even talk about any what would you say, like anything outside of that. So the idea of applying it to the movies, he thinks movies, he seems to imply that movies are a lower form of art. And how can we, in a way, um, bridge that gap and say, well, you know, what if the readings can be just as powerful between literature, traditional literature, and this other form, like a movie or a video game or music. I think music is one of these like more obvious ones, and I think it's one that he is more comfortable with. So how can we expand this into something bigger? And so that's what I've been thinking about, is how can we implement this? How can we talk about this in a way that's like productive and pushes us forward as people who talk about art? I think for a long time, literature reviews and criticism has been like doing its thing, and it's been forming. And for the most part, movie criticism, even music criticism, recent music criticism, is not great. And I think a lot of it can learn from these kind of points that are laid out by Lewis. And I think they're often oh, this will work out. That's a lot. Dang it. Bulbasaur. And let's try to catch up. And an electric type. With Intimidate, it's pretty good. We can make him a special attacker. Special attacker. I know I went out of my way to get Lillipup, but maybe that'd be a good kind of trade. Egg voucher, I see. I think now healing is cheap, so let's keep people healed. And now we can pull up the strings. Oh gosh. No, we're good with that. And I'm just still considering all of these things. And you know, how do I push forward in my own way the medium of, you know, like games criticism? I think is one thing that I think about a lot. And for the most part, it's just like that. It's like bad versus good, which doesn't seem very helpful. It seems like a very bad paradigm. Talking about your bad experience with a piece of work, I think, is not worth anybody's time, really. Maybe it will keep people away unnecessarily from unnecessarily, you know, interacting. Hey Tayo, how's it going? Unnecessarily interacting with a media that they probably don't care to interact with. I think that is important, right? Saying like, hey, I watched this movie, I regret watching it. It didn't give me anything. But beyond that, I don't know if it's really worth talking too much about. I think you should find a way to focus on the good things. Throw a small rock. What are we looking stats-wise? Attack, special attack. More of a physical attacker. Okay. I don't know if Growl is super helpful for us. Keep it back. And so yeah, how can we talk about games in a way that, specifically, right, because that's my interest, in a way that is productive and is not as much like, you know, could you buy this game or not? Is this game worth your time? Which is valuable, but more getting into what Lewis is talking about, which is like, what is my reading into this? What is... I entered the act of playing a game. How am I changed by interacting with it? What can push this beyond just a simple experience of like entertainment, can we push this towards something else? Can this be actually something that has a greater effect? And so I want to work on that. I think that's interesting. And it actually goes into a video I'm going to make later today, which is responding to... Afriel responded to my Google form. Maybe I'll throw that in chat. Not the response, but copy responder link. Yeah, I think that's it. Let me double check this is the right link. So yeah, if anybody has any questions they want me to answer in a future video, this form is good for it. I got one response from Afriel, and that was a really good question. I'm looking forward to answering it. And I think this whole bit is me processing, trying to find a good answer for it. I should have changed the shinks, but I think we're gonna... Oh, we'll stick with rock throw. Why not? Might as well just grab a Pidgey. Why not? Yeah, let's switch some stuff around. Why not? Pop out chat here. Leave that there. Put that there. Yes. Then do that. Cool. Good. This will HC, of course. And we'll give someone else a rare candy. Probably Meow. Yeah, it's kind of behind. I think you still have Rock Smash, yeah. Dang it. We might have a good candidate for switching out our Meow. Having Fake Out's really nice. Not great IVs though. No. Stick here. So I'd be curious, right? I think I'd love to hear everybody else's thoughts on this. I think this is an interesting place to build up. How do we talk about these things? Like, how do we develop the skills to be able to say, you know, this piece of art had this effect on me, or that effect on me? What if we do... window capture. Window capture. There we go. Put this in the corner. Yeah, that's good. Maybe if I pull that down, pull this to the side. No, normally this is something you can do otherwise, but you know. Cool. And then I can jump back and forth. Nice. How does that look on the other one? No, it doesn't change. Interesting. Okay. I'm learning these things. We'll give everybody an attack boost. Oh. Switch Mudkip. No. Yes. Yes, we'll switch Mudkip to Store Bunny. Do it this way. No, we'll keep Shinx. Okay, Store Bunny can burn Pikachu. Thunder Shock. Do that. Paralyzed. Oh, sheesh. I think we just want to try to burn. Very good. And I think this is good. No. There we go. We'll get the Professor Pikachu. Is that worth a switch out for... I don't think that's worth a switch out for our Shinx. I think our Shinx is pretty good. So we won't do that, but... we're gonna try to find a way to heal up some of our guys. I know we're using a lot of our stuff, but isn't bad. Switch out Score Bunny. Keep a good group going. Team up on the Spirit. So in one perspective, right, I can see that video games are not, it's not obvious how video games relate to like literature or these like high forms of art. And not, maybe just not clearly, right? I think a lot of people kind of scoff at the idea of video games maybe even being art themselves. And, you know, I get it. How can we do... Oh, Absorb is kind of crazy. Let's do that. I might just throw a Pokeball to end it. That's not a bad way of doing it. Speed? Special attack. That is a good combo. Maybe switching out that Rookidee for this. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Get a Protect going. We don't need a Tackle. Timber. This might be the best combo. I don't think Mudkip's gonna survive. It is towards the end of this run. We could just do a little rock throw, see if we got something off. No, it's not gonna do it much. I don't think we have any like dark moves or anything. Scorbunny's kind of paralyzed, so it's not quite easy to do this. Let's hope that we can just kind of push our way through. I should have used a quick attack. That would have been maybe nice next round. It is what it is. Ooh, bite it. That would have been a good lesson. We don't need a... Oh, Pancham. Can we just stick with Thunder Shock? Circle Throw. Okay, we're gonna take it out. Maybe we can switch. Yes, yeah. We'll lower its attack. Then we'll do Meowth again. We'll take it out. Scratch does more than faint. Oh. Interesting. Let's see. Um, let's do this. Okay. Maybe we'll just talk for a bit. Pokerogue is giving me a bit of a hard time. So we'll just talk. Maybe I'll get back to it. Um, do camera capture. Okay. So let's talk about something else. I'll if anybody ends up watching, not ends up watching, ends up is here and they want to talk in the Discord, let me know. I can set that up. No, that'll be a good time. Let me just talk what's in front of me right here. I can concentrate. I'll channel my Luke Thompson. Maybe we'll find out a way to more easily get stuff going. So maybe what I'll do is I'll hop in the President Foxman Discord server, and then we can maybe connect. I'll bring people in if people want to do it. Yeah, there's a Foxman Discord. Maybe I should link that, and we'll try it this way. Send a server invite. Hidden use a copy button. There we go. Here we go. Foxman server. They, of course, copied the hidden message. Why are you hiding? I gotta disable. Tayo hopped in. Okay. There we go. You are now in here. Let me throw an invite out. Invite people. For some reason, it kept copying the hidden one. There we go. And for now, I can talk about this while we're waiting. I started this. I'm not super far. This is a famous speech by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, famous for Gulag Archipelago. And the speech is titled "A World Split Apart." And I've been making my way through it, and it's kind of an infamous. It's kind of an infamous speech, partially because of his critique of Western culture. So he's so well known for his critique of Soviet Russia because he was in the gulags, and he was asked to give a speech at Harvard, and he basically lays out that I haven't been in Soviet Russia for the last 4 years. I've been exiled. It doesn't do me good to talk about my critiques of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide my critiques of the West. And he goes through a lot of different things. He talks about the division of the world. Is a world split apart? He talks about how the world is not coming together in any reasonable way. It seems like everything is growing further apart. And then he gets into specifically the West. He starts number one with what he calls a decline in courage. And I'm only a few pages in. It's 10 pages long. I think I'm 3 pages in. And there's just a few bits that just really caught my eye. This is one that struck me. But he's talking about the West here. But the persisting blindness of superiority continues to hold the belief that all the vast regions of our planet should develop and mature to the level of contemporary Western systems. The best in theory and the most attractive in practice, that all those other worlds are but temporarily prevented by wicked leaders or by severe crises or by their own barbarity and incomprehension from pursuing Western pluralistic democracy and adopting the Western way of life. Countries are judged on the merit of their progress in that direction. But in fact, such a conception is a fruit of Western incomprehension
of the essence of other worlds, a result of mistakenly measuring them all with a Western yardstick. The real picture of our planet's development bears little resemblance to all this. And so I literally wrote this is it there, guys. This is fire. Um, I think there's very little that I've seen that I don't know that people have this idea that they have a worldview. This has been a very common thing I've run into, and I've talked to Afriel about this on his channel a little bit uh, in our talk over his stream. And how do we engage with that? How do you engage with the idea that somebody thinks that they don't have a worldview, that their frame doesn't exist? And I'm not sure how to counter it. I think this might be the best way of doing that, saying like, just as you think that you are advanced and above other people, um, you know, they think that they're more advanced than you, and you can't really contest with that. Also, hello everyone for joining. Hey Nico and Mikmo, um, good to see you guys here. Um, and so then he gets into his critique specifically, um, beyond just before that he gets into colonialism and talks about um, how this relationship with the colonies, that it was this kind of conquering that came with from within something that was in Western culture, and how this relationship to the colonies has switched to such an extreme that there's just this divide in the world, and that it doesn't look like there's anything that the West could do to ever pay back for the what they did to the colonies. And this line is very interesting. It's difficult to predict whether the surrender, not only of its last colonies, but of everything it owns, will be sufficient for the West on this account, to clear this account. Oh, thank you, Ups. It was very, very generous. And the connection I made to that was it's very reminiscent of Nietzsche. You know, is there's not enough water in all the oceans to wash our hands of his blood? Um, this 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 horrible state of things, this divide, this tearing apart of the world, um, it requires some sort of grace that is beyond the conception of people. And so the Christian roots in this speech are very clear, but it's just fascinating to see his going through this. So the two sections I've gotten through so far of his critique have been specifically one titled "A Decline in Courage," in which he talks about the systems of the West are not courageous, but there are many individuals. I was trying to understand that a little bit more, but I am still having a little bit difficulty. Again, this title of this is oh, "A World Split Apart" by Solzhenitsyn. And there's a little bit of that, where I'm not a big fan of the Tate brothers personally, but there is a bit of their language in here. This idea um, of courage, but I think the courage that Solzhenitsyn's talking about is probably a little bit more rooted in a more Christian sense of courage, as opposed to a purely power based. But he does talk about this lack of manhood, is what he specifically calls it. But he talks about the things that he's particularly criticizing is something like depression, passivity, and perplexity in their actions and their statements. An inability to understand maybe would be a good bit. A just complete giving up. he talks also about how that there's this kind of sense of bullying other like smaller powers who can't fight back. This kind of pushing people around. Um, but at the same time, uh, it's on the other end. It's uh, when there is someone who can punch back, this kind of giving up. He actually explicitly calls this out by saying, "We'll start from this part." Uh, his sentences are so long. And the decline in courage at times attaining what could be termed a lack of manhood is ironically emphasized by occasional outbursts and inflexibility on the part of those same functionaries when dealing with weak governments and with countries that lack support, or with doomed currents which clearly cannot offer resistance. But they get tongue tied and paralyzed when they deal with powerful governments and threatening forces, with aggressors and international terrorists. One must point out from ancient times a decline in courage and a decline in courage has been considered the first symptom of the end. Um, and it's this idea of he links this decline in courage with these past civilizations that have fallen, um, but just this inability to actually deal with powerful threats. That as soon as anybody, who's big enough to punch back actually punches back, they don't know how to deal with it. And then he switches gears very quickly, and that's kind of the frame. Is he goes kind of quickly through these, and this is kind of where I towards the end of where I read today. His number two is materialism, and I think this is one thing that we have talked a lot about recently, but this idea of being trapped by your own wealth, by your own pleasure. And I think this captures it too. So who should now renounce all of this? And he's talked about all the great things that people have. The you've how about we go? People have been granted well-being to an extent their fathers and grandfathers could not even dream about. And he says, so who should now renounce all of this? Why, and for the sake of what, should one risk one's precious life in defense of the common good, and particularly in the nebulous case where the security of one's nation must be defended in as yet a distant land? And so this idea that like why would anybody ever risk themselves or anything of their own for anybody else? And then he says, even biology tells us that a high degree of habitual well-being is not advantageous to a living organism. Today, well-being in the life of Western society has begun to take off its pernicious mask. One could say that materialism has become the opiate of the masses in a certain sense, and I think this is one thing that's kind of the frame breaking piece. Is we use words like freedom or like good, these kind of things, rights, and the question is, for what? Um, what are we doing this for? What is the purpose of all this? And excuse me, it's not always clear. Nico said, kind of connects with the previous conversation. Do what thou wilt. Yeah, I think there's also the connection of judges, right? In that time, people did what was good in their own eyes. That we all just kind of, you know, we struggle for power and freedom and agency, and we might not call it power because power is kind of a bad word nowadays, but it is power. It's technology is a type of power. Agency, being able to do whatever you want, and not realizing that in the quest for power and the quest for trying to get more and more, you end up creating the very thing that traps you. Um, I mean, I think it's probably not the popular thing to quote Kanye West, but there's the now we're buying our own chains element, right? This idea of like literal freedom. In his context, he's referring to slavery that occurred in America, and now the slavery that comes with materialism, and these kind of two sides of uh, different types of freedom. We came in from McMo stream, and the topic had come up. Okay, I didn't catch that part. That's interesting. Um, he said that based. Yeah. You know, there are there are things that he has said that have been very based, and some of them that have been not very based. And that's the wisdom. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. That you take the good, and you leave the bad, and you do your best to do that. Um, yeah. So that's just been one thing I've been kind of thinking about. Um, I think it's very good to encounter the critique of the group that you're a part of, and finding a way to incorporate it. And I think this kind of fit into the greater idea of critique. How can we process critique well? Because I think what's interesting about this is that Solzhenitsyn is coming from the context of he's coming from the context of being in the Soviet Union, which was, inspired by Marx, and Marx very much is known for his critique of the West. And Solzhenitsyn, in a certain way, is providing his own critique of the West. And I don't know. I've heard many people say the part that they like about Marx is that he provides a critique, but there is such thing as a bad critique, and there are such things as bad critiques that point to real things. And Solzhenitsyn, in his own way, and I think maybe in a more productive way, is calling out the problems with materialism, with the, if you want to call it capitalistic, but the capitalistic structure of the West. But he's doing so for the spiritual good, and he specifically calls it out, right? The spiritual good of everything. I mean, the speech ends. I've read the end too recently. The speech ends with, if the world has not approached its end, it has reached a major watershed in history, equal in importance to the turn of the Middle Ages to the Renaissance. It will demand from us a spiritual blaze. We shall have to rise to a new height of vision, to a new level of life, where our physical nature will not be cursed, as in the Middle Ages, but even more importantly, our spiritual being will not be trampled on, as in the modern era. The ascension is similar to climbing onto the next anthropological stage. No one on earth has any other way left but upward. And I don't know what I dropped. And I think that's the thing. It's actually centered on something that is productive, and it doesn't seek to tear down. It seeks to, critique for the good. He's functioning like a doctor to a certain extent. He's trying to. When was this written? This speech was given. Let me double check. It was given 1978. Was the year? Oh, I had him right in front of me. Okay, yeah. This was the Harvard commencement speech in 1978. It caused a bit of a firestorm, especially among, the more right wing people in that time who were in favor of Solzhenitsyn, mostly for his anti-communist stance, and then when they heard him say that he did not think that the West was perfect, uh, they kind of freaked out about it, and um, that has happened a couple times his uh, through his career before he passed. Um, and yeah, um, I'm looking forward to reading more. I'm gonna definitely give more thoughts on this. Um, yeah, that's just one of the things. But I think that idea of critique, um, that goes into what I was trying to talk about Lewis earlier. So I read, oh sorry, Nico. I remember reading Marx commenting in a letter that a new war could explode in Europe, in the sense it was being obvious. Funny that people could feel war approaching. Yeah, I mean there's tensions, right? I mean at that time, right? It was basically everything was stacking up. All these powers were aligning, and there was a clear divide down the center of Europe. And you know, you can feel those. No, well, I feel a war between me and the atheists that keep crashing my streams. Is that happening a lot, McMo? Are there just atheists who are just coming in to troll you? Because you know that seems to be the way of TLC. If anybody wants, I'm gonna keep rambling and yapping a little bit more. Feel free to hop into a voice chat, and I can pull you into the voice chat I'm in. I'm in like a private one that no one can see, I think. Um, if anybody's up for that. But until then, I'll keep talking. Um, so I think that gets at the critique that I think Lewis is kind of pointing to. They or Lewis is talking about how it doesn't make sense to talk about a bad book, um, because as long as there's one person who finds a good reading, McMo, I was playing Pokemon, it was crashing on me. I can try to do my best. We'll see if it works now. You have the little tinkling sound in the background. Okay, it's starting now. Okay, we can do that. We can do this. Multitasking. Oh, I forgot. This is the one where I don't know if we're gonna survive the onslaught. Oh, we can. So Lewis talks about in a critique of an experiment in criticism about how there's no such thing as a bad no, he does say there's such thing as a bad book, but it's almost impossible to prove that there's a bad book. That the thing that we should be concentrating on is readings of books, not on your reading only. And so I'm trying to kind of fuse the two together. Like, what is the role of criticism, and how do you properly do this? Because I think we want to approach objective criticism. How do we do that? It's not quite clear. And Solzhenitsyn, I think, is doing an interesting job because he's providing type of criticism, and Marx does too. And so how do we distinguish the two? How do we separate and split off, but still see that one might be more useful than the other? Lewis gives this idea that you need to find someone who you trust to a certain extent, like a person who is literary, and then trust their reading of something, to say that there might be something beautiful to be found in a book. But his idea is pointing upward, as opposed to going out into outright criticism. Side type, probably. You, the criticized and the greater good above the two. Nico, I might need more help on that. Oh! That did more damage than I expected it to. Bulbasaur might be the best way to go. Yes. But he is psychic. Maybe not the best. King's in fight now. Right? Not have fight. Read the first comment before that one. Yeah, I know, man, he killed that. Bro. Let's just try to quick attack, even though it's... Nice. Okay. So, I know you were saying, like, I think you need a third element. So you have you, me, right? The criticized, and the greater good above the two. Is that... I think I'm getting lost in that. I think that I'm getting confused. Critique needed. I thought Nico was talking about elements as a Pokemon. Yeah. Critique is necessary, and it's good as a method of developing, right? Getting closer to something that is better. But sometimes I feel like it's not helpful, right? And that's part of what I'm trying to get at, is that you need an ideal that you're pushing towards. And maybe that's what you're getting at, Nico, is that you need the greater good. Yeah, feel free to jump in. I'm into VC if you want. I'll pull you over. I just need to make sure I keep an eye on this. So, first of all, let's just give him a move. We don't need tackle if he has quick attack already. Double kick works pretty well. Pancham. Let's see if we can burn him. Please. No? Okay. Yeah, I think there's a, like, criticism for criticism's sake is not... Gosh, that is way stronger than I want it to be. I think we might just be able to outlive him. Ooh. So it's like, maybe criticism for criticism's sake is not helpful? Is that like a better way of putting it? Is that like, what is it we're trying to do here? Is it to be critical, to be... Oh, wait. Is this a physical attacking or special attacking? This is a special attacking. Does a little less chance to hit, but I kind of like that better. We barely survived that, so let's get a couple potions. If we don't make this, I think we're gonna be fine. We'll just restart and we'll try again. Oh no. A Bidoof? Let's leech soon. Crap. What? What? No! We might not make this, guys. We might not. We might fail. Gosh, okay. Let's just try to... No? Okay, let's hope he... Crap, okay. Anyway. The problem is this. A says, I believe in loving people. B asks, what is love? A responds, loving someone is giving me things. And, yeah, it's not knowing what love is. And the critique is, right, that You don't know what that is. But why critique? And that's the thing. Is it needs to be pointed towards something beautiful and good. So we have a bunch of Pokemon now that we have access to, and so now we can kind of play around. Can we? We also have a egg. Gotcha. So let's do this. Get some stuff. 3 rares, nice. Yes. The question is criticism for what, and then you have the greater good. You have what is criticized. And the person themselves. And, yeah. I think that's a solid way of going. We need to plan this out. I want to see what IVs we're looking at. Very low defense. What in the world? Stuff is like not loading right. The form of criticism will change depending on what the reason is. Yeah, I think like if you love something, your critique is going to look very different than if you are, you know, fighting against it. So we don't have access to any of the passives yet. Let's do a Rattata. Let's do a Charmander. I don't think one needs to be self-conscious and do meta-analysis and critique. The problem is that critiquing is now the primary method of consumption of any media, because we're now a content society. I think it's part of it. The idea that criticism is for helping the work or the author, but the problem is, what do you mean help? I think it's to help, but then it's also to keep people from wasting their time. That's kind of what we've done, and that's kind of along ad nauseum's point about the purpose of critique in a content dichotomy is to keep people away from you know, this movie is bad, don't watch it, right? Don't give them your money. It was a waste of my time. It's going to be a waste of your time too. Which I think is somewhat helpful, and I'm not totally against it, but I do find that it's not interesting. I want us to kind of point towards something good and better, and that's what I really enjoyed about Lewis's work, is because now there's this kind of image of the real purpose of literature, of art, is to actually have an effect on a person. So how can we talk about the effects on people in a realistic way? And part of that is actually talking to people, actually having them share their experiences with the work, as opposed to just kind of, you know, letting it go. Being so inside of yourself to be able to ever talk about the real purpose of a work, which is, you know, to affect people. It's not perfect, but yeah, it does something. Okay. Do a quick attack. We'll catch a Lechonk. Why not? Okay. Let's check this. Go back. Do that. Gosh. I need to find a way to organize stuff a little better. There. Cool.
Nico was saying, to ad nauseum, one needs to be self-conscious if they want to change their own ways, otherwise they'll do what comes natural to their own instincts. Yeah, but then there's the other side of being self-conscious, is that you are stuck in that critique cycle, that you never actually do anything. I mean, I'd say that's been a good portion of my life has been that. Of just focus on myself to a point that it's just impossible to ever do anything. We don't want to switch this out. Let's attack Wooloo. We'll get a quick attack off on Starly. Yes. Okay, cool. So I did want a Starly. The fun part about this whole thing is that, in a way, we're talking about criticism and what is the good that we should be focused on. But then you're going to be stuck in this loop of criticism on, like, okay, so is that good enough? Is that not? And the some part is, like, you should start somewhere. You should actually start and, like, actually try to live a certain way. And then you can decide from there whether or not that's the best way to go. I don't think we're going to need any of that. I think Pokeballs are probably the best way to go. Oh, I forget what this means. I think if it's dark, it means that we do want to catch it. It has a lower IVs or something like that. I mean, higher IVs. Yeah, it has higher IVs and a couple things. I don't think it's worth keeping, though, on our team. Fury Impulse. Lower target special. We'll do that. Save that. By trainer. Easy. Okay. What else has been on my minds? Has anyone here heard of I ran into an author recently, and they've been interesting to read so far. I haven't read too much of their own stuff. I've been reading about them, and they're not really an author. They're more of like an artist who happens to write. But his name is Makoto Fujimura. He's an artist who's written a bunch of books on, you know, religion and art. And, you know, what is the nature of this relationship between one's, like, you know, faith and what they do artistically, and how can you, like, exercise that well. I've been curious to kind of dig into their stuff, so I found they had 2 books. But one of them is on Silence by Endo, and I still need to read it. I think it's Fujimura. Let me input it. I think it's Makoto Fuji. Fujimura. He does like abstract expressionism. He does it in with like traditional Japanese techniques. So he does like a modern or postmodern art style. It would be modern art, I guess, with traditional paints and stuff. Cool, Nickmo. Do you know anything? I've just kind of started listening to his stuff. Or has it just been the name? I just randomly had one of his books recommended to me on Spotify, and so I started it. It was pretty interesting so far. He's talking about the book Silence and his interaction with it, and I don't know. It's one of those kind of like good signs that someone, you know, knows what they're talking about a little bit. Toxic Orb. It's interesting that they recommended this. I don't know if I have anybody who... Oh.
He has guts. That's interesting. It might be worth trying. No. No. Okay. I'll try that. You're scared of reading silence? I mean... Actually, I'm curious. I'm curious, McMill. What is scaring you about reading silence? I feel like it's gonna be very intense. That's been my bit. Okay. Pretty easy matchup for us. Okay. Hoo-hoo. Oh yeah. We got this. Gonna make you cry. Have you seen the movie yet? I feel like... I mean, a book is longer, though. A book takes a long time to get through. And making it a long way through a sad book... That would be fair. Like a movie, once you watch a movie, it's over. You know, you're done. But... sad book. A sad book is a lifetime. Might as well give a citrus berry to something. If you can hold more than one thing, I think that's a pretty good thing to do. Oh, you just go to the movie for the same reason. Oh, okay. Dang. I was hoping I could not have to use that citrus berry so early. Okay. Flare Blitz. That's pretty good. May leave the target with a burn. Oh, this is like... Is this a physical? This is a special one. Silence. Is this a modernist book? It's, yeah, Silence, for people who don't know, Silence is an account of, there's like a famous event in Japanese history, of the, I can't remember how many martyrs it is. The movie is about two priests that come to Japan, because they don't have any priests anymore because they've all been kind of persecuted, and the persecution is so intense that you know, people who refuse to step on the image of Christ, they get basically crucified or tortured, and the whole movie's about you know, how do you respond to this horrible you know, thing that's presented to you. And the book actually takes the perspective of the apostates, and tries to reflect on what they were going through, because so much is written about the martyrs and the you know, the great sacrifice they made, but not a lot is kind of talked about these, you know, these apostates and how what they were going through. So it's a very intense thing. I'm reading McMo's comment. I'm sick, so extra emotional. I cried at a video of a dog at the pound earlier today. I thought, I am that dog, and God adopted me. I mean, that's pretty intense. But you know what? That's also true. But yeah, maybe anything that is slightly sad might not be for you right now, McMo. Maybe it is right that you take a little bit of a break. Yeah, I think we're on our final boss for this one. Oh, I thought Rattata would be good for that, but maybe we'll just try to burn him. Smoke screen, maybe? Try burning them. Yeah, okay. That'll be easy. Just easy. So we got 2 new eggs. We got way stronger chimchar. I don't know why it's messing up. And we got a swablu. What? How is Charmander looking at you? Like this? This Charmander? Like the one up there? Or like that one? That might be too cute. Yeah. We'll be better. I think I messed up to do it that way, but we're just gonna try to sweep. Not ideal, not ideal. We do that, and then we try to quick attack the other Pidgey. Get him out of the way. You just joshing him? I'm sorry. Oh, man. There we go. I think that's good. I am training this Charmander a little too much, I think, probably for its own good. But Feather Dance is pretty good. Oh no, I'm thinking of a different one. Great Balls are nice, but it wouldn't be bad to give Brokey another level. Start getting up there. One thing I did want to touch on, and I thought this would be a fun idea for a video, but you know, I'm just kind of talking and hanging out. The Sangoose is strong. Did we sacrifice? We sacrifice. Attack. Oh gosh. Bro. Okay. We might not be doing well today. I think we might just not be surviving. Are you serious? I need to get back into the swing of things to understand how to do all this again. Oh, I can't even... Okay. Six doesn't even have bite. And you can't even lower the stats. It's a bad day. Starting with a really bad time. Okay. Okay. Oh. Well. We're back here again. We got a good Chimchar. It now has Thunderbolt, which will help us get some good coverage. We got a Swablu. Swablu is pretty good. Takes a long time to level up, but it has Disarming Voice. And Natural Cure. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's go to Starly and see what the IVs are. think it's not a bad idea to get Starly. I think it's probably good. And we'll get... What is up?
What is up, Grub? How's it going?
Chimchar is the goat. I think he's also a chimp. But I don't think he's doing... We'll see. We'll see how well he does. I think having Thunderbolt might be the vibe. We'll get this wolf up. I don't know about that one, but... I feel like I'm over-leveling some, but at the same time, I'm losing too much. Yeah, might as well switch these out. I'll throw a level on Swaddling. Go that route. Abra. Can we just throw an Ultra Ball? Attack and special defense down. That's a really not a great Abra. Has this guy. That's better than the zigzag, I guess. And what else have I've been thinking about? I talked about Bulginditson, talked about Lewis, talked about Makoto Fujimura. Yeah. Well, the invitation is still open. If anybody wants to hop into the Discord and hop into the voice chat, I can pull you on, and we can talk. Otherwise, I will be just rambling and playing Pokemon, I guess. It's the route that I'm planning on. Oh, perfect. Easy. I'll give Swablu another level, just to keep it up in stats. A Wurmple. Starly even have anything? Not really. But you know what? This'll work. It'll be fine. Ooh, okay. This Swablu keeps... We haven't given it anything. I feel like McMo has a lot to say about Pokemon. I think he does. He's a lot to say about the emotional truth behind all of it. I mean, you don't have to talk about Pokemon, Nico. You can talk about whatever you want. You're delirious? That's all the better. We had Peck on this the entire time. Yeah. Pokemon is just an excuse to hang out. At some point, we'll get multiplayer games going, and we can just all chill and play games. But for now, we'll do this. Rattata? We'll keep we'll keep Starly out here. We do want to get that extra level out. You know which VC? Oh, you're in. I'm just gonna pull you into the studio. Okay. Hey Nico, how's it going?
Hey man, everything okay?
Okay, let me turn you up a little bit. Can you speak one more time?
I think Pokemon is underrated.
You think Pokemon's underrated?
I'm joking now.
I think you are really quiet.
I am really quiet.
I think you are. I don't know if I have it turned down. Do I have everything turned down? I might have everything turned down.
I can increase my microphone. Let's see. How about now?
Okay.
I should
think
be
that's good.
louder.
I'm gonna redo this because I think this game is really loud. I think that might be why. We'll turn the game down. Okay. I think it might be good. I think I just need to equalize things. So Pokemon's underrated, you say?
No, I was just joking. I was just joking. Yeah.
So
I don't know much about it.
You don't know much about Pokemon?
Yeah. I never paid much attention to it. Then one day I met this guy in college, and he knew the deep Pokemon metagaming battle strategy lore.
Mm-hmm.
The art of Pokemon War. He knew the art of Pokemon War.
Oh yeah. He ever talked to you about IVs and EVs?
I think he did. But what's that? What's the difference between IVs and
there's
EVs?
so in the main games there's like you would assume that the main form of progression is like every other like RPG where you just level up and you get more stats. In Pokemon, they have these two other hidden like hidden devices, I guess, that like let every other like that you can get, and one of them is IVs, which is like the base stats of each Pokemon are different, as if it's a like a genetic trait of the Pokemon. And then there's also the EV, which is as you defeat Pokemon, you get hidden experience and specific stats as you go. And so there's like a whole way to min and max your Pokemon by like just fighting Bidoofs or something like that. It's a very interesting interesting deal.
So, leave it to the Japanese to add hidden and unknown changes to stats while playing the game. If you talk to this Jenny in Lavender Town, then your fire Pokemon may get sick and turn communist.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of stuff like that in Pokemon, like just oddly there. And that's kind of my favorite part. For the most part, I actually think that they have not done a good job with the games. That's part of the reason why I'm playing a fan game now as opposed to like a real Pokemon game.
I was gonna ask.
Oh yeah.
I could tell it wasn't a normal Pokemon game.
Yeah. It's because the real ones are not interesting anymore. You gotta mix it up or find a fanned one. They make better games. Ad Nauseam asked in chat, isn't Pokemon the most valuable IP in history? It's up there. I don't know if it's the most valuable, but it's like $1 billion thing, at least.
It's too normie. That's why you have to go to the Dark Souls of Pokemon.
True. We just make everything Dark Souls. It's like, what if this genre was more like Dark Souls? Let me,
Yeah.
that's right. Okay, cool.
You first have like the normie version of that, which is make everything scary and dilapidated. Then you have the real Dark Souls, when you start the game, you get the worst Pokemon as your starting Pokemon. Then one step in the grass, and you are suddenly assaulted by a Mewtwo or something.
Wait, holy crap! Ad nauseum was saying that it is the biggest IP in history, 90 billion more than Hello Kitty. Because I thought Hello Kitty was up there, but
Whoa!
90 billion more than Hello Kitty is a is a big deal.
Whoa!
I would not have expected that.
Wow! That's fucking crazy. What is it that PBK says? Politics is cents, religion is dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Oh, okay. 10 billion more. 10 billion more. Hello Kitty is 80 billion. Pokemon is 90 billion. Okay. Yeah, you scared me, Ad nauseum. I was gonna say, like, that is another level. But still 90 billion by itself is huge.
Yeah. 170 billion for Japan. There you go. Talk about all those people talking about oh, what does this country export? They don't have natural resources.
Creative resources. You know?
Yeah, creative resources is
It's a big deal.
yeah. So that's pretty crazy. To think that you could get that far. And it goes against the what's it called? The normal disposition of a starving artist,
Mm-hmm.
too much value in art and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's interesting about Pokemon is that it has had a good game in, a good number of years, depending on who you ask, like up to 10 years. And it's just it can ride on the merchandise that you can generate from these games. Also, the games do sell, Still insane. Ad nauseum says, still insane. Some goofy monsters moving that amount of money. Yeah, I mean, like, right? Like they're just like a bunch of pictures of random monsters, right? Like they have style to them and they're well made, but still, it's kind of crazy.
What was that? The guy that started Scientology said, if I wanted to make money, I would start a religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was. And I know that the guy who made Star Trek said something similar because they were friends with each other, I think. Gene Roddenberry and the guy who made Scientology.
Wow.
But I think Scientology is one of those things that is fascinating because it was somebody who went out of their way to take advantage of using a narrative to, like, not even subtly control people, but like actively control people. And you don't, I mean, you see that subtly, but not as obviously as Scientology was. That's like another level of things.
Did he or did things get out of hand? I don't remember the story. The one thing I know is that basically he was a pulp fiction author.
Oh no.
And he would write these weird theoretical scientific musings, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
He would have a lot of ideas in his science fiction books, and apparently he later on used those same ideas in Scientology.
Yeah. Like a lot of those ideas got kind of moved over into the religious side of things. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take money.
I have to say, the treatment for the pixel art,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty nice.
Yeah,
Of
they did a
this,
good job.
Animation.
And they made pixel art for some of the Pokemon that don't have pixel art in any other games, which I thought was pretty cool. Because they have all the Pokemon, even the new ones, in this one.
Oh, so what are the new games doing? Is it all 3D?
Yeah, all the new ones are all in 3D. They're all 3D modeled.
Is the Pokemon community outraged?
At this point, I think everybody's kind of over it. Like, the people who are outraged are long gone, you know? I still really love the 2D, like, pixel art style. I think, for the most part, things look better like that. Ooh. Magnemite with Flamethrower? Might be nice.
And the thing about pixel art is that the aesthetic remain throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
It is not so susceptible to looking old as much as some 3D, not all 3D, but some 3D.
Yeah, I've found that 3D for the most part doesn't... I don't know. I don't like it as much. I don't think I've liked it as much for most things. I'm trying to think of exceptions to that, but it just usually doesn't look as clean as 2D does. Like Hollow Knight, for example, I think is like very nice, like very clean 2D art. It's done well. And, if I like 3D art, it's usually for the jaggedness, like going back to like a N64 era. Like I think it ages better if you just try to stylize it more.
It's complicated because basically it's an appreciation for the form.
Mm-hmm.
So there is something intrinsically enjoyable about looking at these pixels on the screen. They just look nice by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So the pixel art is working with that inherent beauty.
Yeah.
And then with the 3D, it becomes complicated. But there are out there a few examples. One of the problems is realism.
Mm-hmm.
There is an inherent beauty to realism, and just like many other things, it has like its spiritual dimension.
Yeah.
but it's not the kind of dimension that is shared by something like, let's say, an oil painting. The oil painting,
Mhm.
you're seeing the texture and glossiness of the material of the paint. There is something nice about that. But 3D art that goes for realism, it has nothing to do with that. It's trying to look like the real thing.
Yeah.
So you would need to share with something like an oil painting. You need to make some 3D that its textures are somehow painted, for example.
Mm.
And then that's kind of complicated. Where are you going to find that? If you go to late 90s 3D games,
Mm-hmm.
there was a time where it was such a new technology that it was like amateur hour all the time.
Yeah.
So people were making textures in a square, and basically they were painting it. And then later on, the guy who's making the 3D comes in and he fits the geometry to that. And so if you grab the texture, you can see it and realize, oh, I know what's going on here. Yeah, that's the face of the guy, and that's the body, and everything is drawn all together like a single thing, which nowadays that's like a bad practice. You're not supposed to do that. You're kind of like a very bad texture artist if you do something like that. Usually you have like one hand is in one part of the texture, next to it is like a nose, and next to that is a hand. But because it was all drawn all together, basically it was painted like a painting.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an artistic painterly aspect to the texture that went on the 3D. So there you can find it if you go for like let's say 2, like 3, something like that. You'll see it.
Well, and I think one bit too is that I think stylization is underrated to a certain extent. That the amount of work that you have to do to reach realism in any medium, especially one where, you know, video games, you need to make so much art for it that there's no way to possibly generate easily all that. And so stylization lets you keep consistent style and a consistent standard of quality in a way that you can't really do easily in when you're trying to do realism across the board. And you know, you can do it, but the technical requirement, the artistic requirement, it just gets to a point where it's untenable, and it ages really poorly, right? Because the standard changes so much over time.
Yeah. But now you go back to a bunch of games, and they age really well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think especially
also
the
been
ones
this-
that went the stylized route, or, you know, kind of gave into the restrictions of the medium itself.
Yeah. Whereas a bunch of other games, they could have gone. They could have gone low poly if they wanted to.
Mhm.
At different points, if you wanted to sell, you had to have the best graphics.
Yeah.
But now there are a bunch of indie games that are aping like PlayStation 1
Mhm.
graphics.
I know there's a lot that I'm looking forward to, and they kind of stick to the PlayStation 1 or 2 graphics. And it's just something that's way more accessible to like a wider audience of, people who are making things, and they can kind of, conform to this art style that is easier to maintain quality with. So I think that's the route I think it's going to reach, right? I think that's going to be. I don't think big game companies are going to stick around for very much longer, at least in the way that they run right now. I think you're going to have a lot more smaller studios. What is this?
Yeah, that's one thing. There are in the different ages of consoles. I think the consoles that got the best quality stuff, except for the Nintendo 64, are the ones that were amenable to smaller size teams or studios.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you compare, for example, the difference in quantity of games between the, let's say, PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 2, it's just massive.
The quantity you said?
Yeah,
Mm,
quantity.
yeah.
And the PlayStation 1 and 2
Mhm.
had a giant boatload of games. But then you jump to the third one, and it's not like that at all. But if you go into the PSP, now you find a bunch of indie games.
Yeah.
To me, PSP is just superior to the PlayStation 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can see it, right? Like, there, when you lower the bar of entry, that allows more, more creativity. You don't have to have everybody stick to this like one way of making a game or one type of game, which I think is what we've kind of reached now with, Ubisoft. Their formula has kind of become super popular within the last, little bit, and it's just now dying. Of big open world with a bunch of like little places to visit, and you're just it's almost like the TikTok version of video games of like, okay, here's a little thing to do, and now you do that, and then you go to the next little thing, and you're just checking things off of a checklist. You're not really thinking about what you're doing, you're just kind of mindlessly playing a game.
Yeah. I'm not 100% convinced, but it's just a gut instinct. I think that's basically the way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go before the PlayStation, it's I would say it's the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
That one also has like a lot of games.
Yeah. It was, and it had a lot of great games, right? It had the I'm trying to think about the one that comes to mind is like Chrono Trigger. You had all the great RPGs of the SNES era. Um, yeah, it's and that's part of the reason why I think PC has done so well in the last few years. It's just because you can have a PC that can't run like many games, but if you make a game that can run on basically anything, then it's just it's an easy beginning or platform to build for. Looks like Ethan is in chat. Ethan Colley. I just finished driving from Seattle to Anchorage, Alaska. All I could think about was Death Stranding. Highways are a great tool for Myth. Early Ubisoft was such a breath of fresh air when they first started doing open worlds. Yeah, they had a lot of interconnectivity with the early open worlds of Ubisoft. And then the Highways is a great tool for Myth. Well, my mind goes to American Gods. Have you interacted with that much, Nico? American Gods?
No,
I
no
I've,
idea.
I haven't finished it, but it's a novel about a guy who encounters Odin when he leaves jail, and he goes on this adventure and he starts seeing around the United States there are a bunch of like deities from different like myths from around the world, and they're all kind of washed up, like just retired, but they're all still kind of fighting for control against technology that's kind of kicked them out of the consciousness of humanity.
Is that the book by Neil Gaiman?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And a lot of it's a road trip to different, like part of it's about roadside attractions as being kind of the last level of like religiosity or mythos in America is where Neil Gaiman points to.
ah, that would be interesting. Because I'm not from North America,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is that all of the movies and entertainment they get over here,
Yeah.
but it's quite a strange thing because, for example, it would be normal for there to be movies that take place in New York, in Los Angeles, in California, but you watch that and you've never seen the place, and it's quite a strange experience, basically. Um,
Yeah.
there seems to be all of these almost spiritual elements to American cinema that a lot of that also goes, over my head because I'm not fully in contact with the culture.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think there's things that even from like my perspective as being like quote unquote like inside America, um, LA is its own culture too, and it has its own kind of way of seeing things and processing things. I'll probably stop with the Pokemon for now, but we'll go to this scene here, um, and it's odd. It feels like its own place, and it's bizarre. Um, to encounter the idea of Los Angeles and the um how it kind of has that New York feeling too of this is the center of the world, and everything revolves around us, and we make the things that everybody pays attention to.
I'd like to get into that because it's kind of like unexplored territory for me.
Hmm.
Um, um, if you think about it, for example, if you read Greek myths, they take place in Mount Olympus or in the Oracle of Delphi,
Mm.
and it's a geography that you know we don't know what the implications of Mount Olympus or Delphi are.
Hmm.
Maybe there is like some animosity between uh, one and the other, or they are like this cultural baggage, maybe you could say.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of how I don't know. I think most of us read the Bible if we like when a place is mentioned in the middle of the Old Testament. Like I have no clue what they mean by that. like I don't know what the cultural significance of this specific valley is outside of the immediate context of something. And so part of that requires like further study and to understand that, but part of that is just like um, it requires some historical knowledge that I might not have myself. Um, so there is like a new depth to that, or if like trying to explore that. But then there's also the part where like maybe I'll never be able to fully understand that side of the piece of art. I It might be out of my reach for as long as I live. It might be lost to me.
And the thing is that maybe those elements are really important, uh, maybe even to the point of being necessary
Mm-hmm.
for getting into it. Um, Recently, I was just well, not that recently. A few months ago, I was going through YouTube and I found these um, channels that upload old cartoons, or maybe they would upload whole um, days of programming for something like Fox Kids or something like that. So they don't only include like cartoons, but commercials from that time. And I found this cartoon I never heard about called Invasion America. And it's kind of like a made in this style, similar to Batman the Animated Series.
Mm-hmm.
And the show is it's okay. It's nothing incredible, but uh, as it goes through the whole United States, as the story keeps going, it just strikes me that it has somehow made uh, gathered all of these tropes from uh, maybe you could call it like American mythology or culture or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, there is a moment where they go to a desert. I think it's Arizona or somewhere, and there he finds like uh, a rustic old man living in a van that has like an alien dog for a pet, and who remembers the old times, like he has like secret knowledge and stuff like that. And everything from the the desert place, the kind of towns, the places, the architecture, the kind of things that you find in there, like the mobile home he's living in, and there's like old cars, old rusty cars, and tires gathered around there. So there's like this collection of imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I saw that, I quickly recognized, oh, that looks like that movie. Oh, that looks like that video game. Oh, that looks like. So as I kept going, it kind of brought a bunch of things together. There is like this, maybe you could call it, um, I don't want to say psyche, like a subconscious map.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, at one point they go to DC, and that's the place of conspiracies
Mm-hmm.
in DC. That's the place where the senators get shot. We have to stop it. Uh, then there's also confrontations at malls, where like gray men attack, or things like that, or zombies attack. Zombies attack at the malls. That's where they attack. Or another one is like the small town in a foresty, mountainous area where things are not what they seem. Uh, there are people who um, are laying low and have like a secret identity. They are pretending to be someone,
Mm-hmm.
and you have like this kind of eccentric weirdos of the town, and they have like a dark secret to them. Maybe you go into somebody's house and there's like a laboratory uh, in the basement or something. Um, that's where the alien spaceship tries to capture someone. It's like what's the name of that series?
X
Twin
Files.
Peaks.
Wait, sorry. I missed it.
Well, I guess X-Files too. It's a Twin Peaks.
Oh, Twin Peaks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Twin Peaks has a lot of
yeah.
that too, of like the weird kind of American tropes that are all in bizarre ways. The detective who comes into town, the little town that's not as it seems, um, the the gritty business owner, um, the marital infidelity that's going on. Um, it's all uh, it's all very American, but strangely with Twin Peaks, I think the fun part about it is it's from an American audience. It doesn't feel familiar. It still feels weird, but it feels like I should know. I should be able to connect to it, but I can't easily connect to it.
Really, that's interesting.
Yeah, it feels like it's from an outsider, and I think that's why David Lynch is kind of the way he is. It's because he that's part of his ability with art, or was with art, was to be able to see it from the outside. I don't know if you were there for those conversations, but uh, there was this artist that Christian Baxter would talk a lot about, and he would do landscapes and he would do paintings of houses. They were always from the outside, and this artist ended up taking his own life. Um, and one of the things that uh, people would talk about was that um, he never showed anybody in any of his images, and if there was any hint of people, it was always people like lights on inside of houses from the outside, and it was this idea of like how the difficulty of connecting with people. That there's a certain part to art about being able to see things from other perspectives, but sometimes you're stuck from the outside perspective, and you can never just participate in the thing. Um,
Ah,
yeah,
but do you know if that was on purpose?
no, I have a feeling it was a subconscious thing for him, at least that painter.
Because it would be even more terrible if
If he did that his whole life and no one
usually
noticed.
when you well usually when you go take classes in painting
Hmm.
or things like that, basically what they do is they tell you, okay, you're going to paint this apple now.
Yes.
You're going to paint this jar. You're going to paint this. You're going to paint that. So you're basically supposed to be like a human photograph.
Hmm.
You go, you look for things, you find the thing, and you paint it. That's it. So it would be even more hard hit if basically what happened is that the guy was just going around looking for things to paint, and he never intended for his paintings to be like that. It's just that um, because of the way culture is or society is, he could never get close enough to actually paint the people in the houses.
Hmm. He painted what he saw.
You could,
Yeah.
maybe it's like the damning evidence of society. It
I
could be that.
I think that might be it too, right? It's the um there was no alternative, right? Like what else was he gonna paint? Um yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's one thing I don't know if this is true, but I don't remember seeing uh, new paintings of modern that feature modern cars in them, even if it's just like to the side. I usually don't see it, and I have the slightest suspicion that the reason nobody paints cars, especially with oil painting, it's because they are ugly and
I
nobody wants to see them.
I don't doubt it. I think but I think also it's like if it's a piece of art itself, right? Like even if it's a beautiful car, um, you know, it's kind of the same reason like I think painting a statue like would be kind of strange, or painting a monument or like a sculpture. Whereas painting a building, there's a little bit less artistic intentionality with it, so it makes more sense. I don't know. Maybe I'm way off on that, but
Uh, yeah, yeah. But if you go to the 19th century um, and the 20th century, um, with the Impressionists also, you find a lot of paintings of just um, a bunch of houses and people walking, a busy street, and there is like a car pulled by horses.
hmm.
You know, they appear here and there, and many times they are not made in the with a lot of detail, but they just happen to be there. So the guy got up with his painting and his easel, and he went around the city and he found the spot. Oh, I'm going to paint this, and there happened to be a car. But suppose you try to do the same thing, and you live in a really big suburb. Where are you going to go to the parking lot of a shopping mall? Are you gonna paint that really?
Yeah, but yeah, it's well maybe what we're getting at is like you know, people paint what they think is beautiful. That might be part of it too. They paint what they see, but they also paint what's beautiful or what stands out to them.
and you don't really often see those kind of simple things. You see something that's extraordinary, or something that is like nature, you know. And
Oh yeah.
Nazian was saying, many artists want to distance their art from the banal. That might be why we don't dream about screens. I think that is an interesting bit that I've never had a dream about being on a computer. Um,
Oh,
despite the amount of time I've spent on a computer. Um, I've been
me
not
neither.
paying attention to these messages. Well, it's about hyperrealism. There's a bit of that in that conversation about America earlier. Neil was saying the beauty of almost anything, if there's beauty that can be discovered, revealed, it it can will be painted. It can and will be painted. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, somebody will take notice of it, and then people will gather around it. Like, who's to say that there hasn't been lots of paintings of parking lots, and nobody has found any interest in them outside of that, right? That could be a also a theory around that. Or dreams
I mean,
about. Oh,
I
go
think
ahead.
it's the same thing.
Hmm.
I think it's the same thing. It's either the artist realizes it's not a good idea, or the people looking at it realize it doesn't look good.
I don't know. Look at this painting of a parking lot. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's many paintings of parking lots. I found one when looking on Google, and then another one of a parked
You
car.
found one.
I found one, just one.
Uh, Also, there is the point of what do you do with the painting? You hang it on the wall.
True.
Why would you have a painting of a parking lot on your wall?
Oh, I found another one. This one is of a bunch of cars lined up, and there's like a landscape in the background. Interesting. Neil said, cracks in the pavement can be beautiful. And my response is, usually cracks in the pavement are notable when they're in the image of something else, like of Christ or something. Same thing with potato chips, right? You know, potato chips can be beautiful when they look like the Mona Lisa.
Yeah,
You
haven't seen one yet.
haven't seen one? Yeah, wait, okay, let's pull up these. Like potato chip looks like Jesus.
I mean, just because something is a painting, it doesn't mean it's good.
It's these kind of things, you know?
There are plenty of paintings I would throw in the garbage. That's where they belong.
What about this Cheeto that looks like the crucifixion?
Yeah, that sounds like he should have did that thing.
There's a postmodern.
Is that fungi?
Oh, sorry. There's a postmodern sculpting trend of taking mundane manufactured things like bottle caps and turning them into a sculpture. David Hackney art is banal and isn't the early postmodern is interesting. David Hackney. Fiery crucifixion. Indeed. David Hackney.
Yeah, there are a bunch of modern and postmodern paintings and sculptures that I would throw to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, I don't think this art is very much up my alley. Oh, Hockney. It's Hockney. I have a hard time reading the screen one.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. To the bottom of the sea.
To the bottom of the sea.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm.
It's like it's made of plastic. I
Let's
don't
see.
want plastic.
I have a relative who passed away a little while ago, and let me see if I can find his art is online. Let me see if I can find it. My dad sent me the link at one point, and I might have lost it. See if I can find it
A big
on.
splash. It will make a big splash once I throw it in the sea. That's when it's going to make a big splash.
I don't think I'm gonna be able to find it. I'll see if I can find it some other time. But he did some really cool art of like uh some biblical stuff, stories, and he had a few art shows and things. But his art was a little bit better than this, in my personal opinion. Have you seen any of Ringo Starr's art?
No, no, I haven't.
I don't know if you can see this on stream yet, but
I'm seeing David Hockney.
he does like a MS Paint style.
I can see it now. Okay, okay.
Yeah, he he really did decide that this was gonna be same thing. What was this person? Nicholas Roerich? Nicholas Roerich. This guy looks very very orthodox-ish. It's got that vibe.
Neil posted something. Okay,
Beautiful.
let's see.
This was something my grandmother painted in the Foxy Discord. Let me
Okay,
see
that's
if I
oil
can.
painting.
Oh, I can't. I'll have to. Oh no.
It's in
There we
general.
go.
That's
So
an
do we
oil
show
painting.
everybody? It's an oil painting. Very beautiful. Has street lights on it. So I don't know how you feel about that, Nico, but
Well,
otherwise,
if you go to um, 19th century art, you would see streetlights in the paintings, and they look very nice. But also, when you get into like 80s,
mhm.
in oil painting is very earthy. It's not very good for making these neon and artificial colors. And once you get into people making, for example, what's the name of the vinyl covers. You get
Album
into
covers?
these techniques of, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you get into these techniques of making very precise, detailed, uh, thin line art, and also using airbrushes. So you're making these gradients with airbrushes, and you're making these uh, very fine linings, these kind of almost technical architectural ways. For example, if you look at something like Akira,
Mm-hmm.
you watch the people over there working on that. It's this very mechanical process. So to represent the more modern industrial world of these huge concrete buildings um, that were featured in Akira, they were using these techniques that are not that compatible with something um, like oil painting. So the medium goes hand in hand with the subject. On the other hand, oil painting is great for making something like still life. You're gonna paint some apples and grapes and bread. Use oil painting. It will look great.
I was just reading chat.
It's this very precise work.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one thing that's impressive for these films, right? The fact that it's animated, yet they spent so much time getting everything to look as precise as it is. By the way, everybody's welcome. If you want to hop into VC, I'll bring you into the chat that Nico and I are in. Oh, I closed it again. You just have to hop into. Maybe we'll make a new one called a waiting room. I'll make it very clear. There we go.
There are a few uh, documentaries on Akira, and they have footage of people working on that. And
Documentary
basically, they're
about
using
Akira.
yeah, yeah, and they show you the artists as they are coloring the cells for the animation,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can see the kind of techniques they're using. Um, and if you look into people who were doing album covers, like Rodney Matthews, for example,
Mm-hmm.
they are also using these kind of um, tools and techniques that were very precise. So these techniques go along with the elements, with the subject.
These are some of my favorite. There's this one artist, Vasily uh, Kavanov. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He does these beautiful images for Me Without You's albums. I feel like it's also small. Maybe I need to zoom in.
Looks like acrylic, I think.
I think so. Some of these I haven't seen before, actually. I think these go with the the different songs on one specific album, like Fiji Mermaid, Bear's Vision of Saint Agnes, which I'm surprised. I didn't realize they had like he did a depiction of Saint Agnes holding the lamb with the olive branch.
Hmm.
But lots of fun stuff.
Yeah, this is there's a lot like this nowadays. It's they it's an eclectic stance towards art. It falls haphazardly on the page. If it's a kind of almost attempt at divination.
Hmm. How
There
so?
is this attitude of oh, just whatever you feel like. You're supposed to be moved by the spirits,
Hmm.
Yeah, but
something like that.
I want to talk about Nico. Something you said on McMo's stream caught my attention. I think it's a good topic, which is you said that without God, there's art for the author, or the art for the artist, and there's art for the audience. And I was thinking about the art for the artist. Um, I'm not convinced that's bad in and of its like honestly, I do think that's good, and I think to myself about metal, for instance, like metal music, and or video, like violent video games, like the old trope that if you play violent video games that you're more inclined to be violent. And I suspect it's quite the opposite. And I think it's because it's something like art for the artist, for the person who's participating in it. It's something. The word was the word that was used was not cathartic. I forget the word. Uh, but
There is something cathartic in heavy metal, definitely.
but it is Carl Jung would call it a psychological projection of something that's within you that has to be expressed. And there's been points in my life where like something within me has to be expressed, and it's either a choice between, okay, do I write, do art, or do I take that out on people that I encounter, or the people that I love in my life. And so that's how I think about it. It's something that it's something that's within you that has to be. So art for the artist's sake, I think is good. I think it's a necessary thing. Yeah, thoughts on that?
I just
But
don't think it can end at
I wouldn't
self-expression.
join those two things together, though. I think these are two different things.
Can you elaborate?
Something that's art for the artist's sake. Let me think of an example. Is
Well, what's the difference between art for the artist's sake and art for art's sake?
Well, I think it's the knowledge that the artist is primarily doing it because they enjoy it or love it, or um, I think the art for art's sake maybe is turning it into a false idol. Is
Hmm.
I think
I would kind of
because
counter
it's
because I
all right.
think I think if you're doing it for art's sake, there is love in that. But if you're doing it for its effect on you, I don't know if that's love anymore.
But when you say art's sake,
Mm-hmm.
who's perceiving the art? The question is the perceiver. So you're either smuggling God in there or you're smuggling yourself in there.
No, I don't necessarily think so. I think how would I say it? Like, okay, we'll talk about poetry because I think that's the little bit I caught of that conversation was somebody talking about poetry, about writing poetry. I write poetry because I think it's good to do that. Like it's good in itself to do that. Even if no one sees it, it's good for me, but it's good in general. Even if it doesn't happen to have something beautiful be made, um, is a good in itself. You can bring
But,
other
but
stuff
I
into
think
it, but
yeah, when you say that, I think at the very at the very least, you're bringing in the necessity of some transcendent good that exists.
mhm,
Meaning, um, in I mean,
yeah,
in
by
corner
definition,
speak,
yeah.
that's God. But yeah,
But and that's the thing where it's like maybe I don't see a problem necessarily with that. Um, I'm more concerned about kind of the um, you know, there's I mean I can go to it now. I can read it again. Let's pull this up. One of my favorite things that has been written. Let's see how far back it is in this blog. This is the Nick Cave Red Hand Files. And people are asking the question. My muses have left me, and I've lost all motivation to create as a film and music maker. Have you ever felt alien to yourself and your identity as an artist? So the person says, every time I set foot in my studio, intentions blazing, I crumble with pathetic and flaccid paralysis. Do I paint? No. Why not? I can't get my brain right in that space anymore. And I thought my whole life was going to be devoted to art. I don't know how to reconnect or rekindle making art in a world made of war and cruelty. How would painting a picture ever help? How do you create in this environment? And I'll just go through because the response isn't very long. Dear Tam and Dan, what makes our particular job so exceptional that it requires inspiration or a muse to do it? We are artists. We labor in the service of others. It's not something we do only and when we feel motivated. We create because it is our responsibility to do so. In this respect, our occupation is no different than that of most people. Does an ordinary adult go to work only if they feel in the mood? Do doctors, do laborers, do teachers, do taxi drivers? We are duty bound to do our job like everyone else, because the space we occupy depends on our participation and breaks down if we don't. A committed artist cannot afford the luxury of revelation. Inspiration is the indolent indulgence of the dabbler. Muses, Tam, are for losers. I think that kind of gets at what I was trying to say.
I love the word indolent or indolence. I played this game. It's so rarely used. I played this game called Master of Orion 2. This was like ages ago. It was like 96, 97. It's one of the first games I played on PC once I had a Windows PC. And if you lost, there would be a narrator who would like show you the ruins of your empire, and he would end it. He would say like, "Your armies are scattered, fleets destroyed, people enslaved. Your indolence has cost you your empire." That stuck with me, man. 12-year-old kid. But I agree
Wow,
with the
you
sentiment. Yeah.
that was perfect. Perfect copy voice acting. So on point. Yeah, I don't know if you ever read Metal Hurlan, also called heavy metal. In I think in the States they were publishing that. It's a comic
No.
book magazine. So basically, the way it started was with these pulpy science fiction stories, and they were pretty out there. The idea was that the other magazines, they were doing this kind of Flash Gordon normie kind of science fiction, and we are different. We are doing something new, and they would play with the panels and do crazy things and that kind of stuff. So these magazines, they continue for some time, and around the 60s and something like that, the there was this cultural waves of thinking outside the box, so to say. So a bunch of artists got into those magazines. Also, this also happened with like Marvel and things like that. And as they tried to experiment and do other things, they got more and more weird. And by the end, if you were reading the magazine, when in the beginning you had this kind of Johnny Quest esque stories of action, horror, and things like that, by the end, you had this bunch of like generations after that. Let's say this is like a Gen X artist, let's say, um, making this kind of psychological explorations, uh, this kind of oh, I read actual literature kind of things. And the normie reader that used to read the magazine would look at something like that and ask, so when are you going to make like a story like Rambo 2 or Terminator? And they never did, because they were making art for themselves. They were bored by things like Terminator. They wanted works of art that were extremely avant-garde and complicated, and they have like 1,000 layers of irony. Those kinds of stories are stories made for the artist.
Yeah, it reminds me of like comics that save the best jokes or the dirtiest jokes not for their audience because they can't share that stuff with their audience, but they save it for themselves. Uh, the inner rooms of comics that experiment with things and so outlandish. But now the in has become the out, and the out has become the in. The hills will become valleys, and the valleys will be filled in. Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, basically. Um, and then you have the other option of doing art for the audience. And the problem with doing that is basically um, what do the audience want? They want action. Okay, so this is Action, the magazine. And what do they like? They like tanks. Okay, so this is tank action, the story. And then you have airplane action. And you would never have like let's say um, uh, satellite action, because it's not a thing that the audience would think to ask for. The audience knows what they have already liked in the past. They wouldn't think about something new. So in there you run into that kind of problem of, if you only make things for the audience, then you can't give people what they need. You can only give them what they already know.
Mhm.
And if
See,
they don't know about something that they can't ask for
I
it.
have a I have a controversial stance on what ultimately determines good art. I don't think most people in the corner, I think, hate this idea and disagree with me, but I don't see any other way how it could be, which is I think what makes good art is or the best judge of good art is time. And I think art that does not persist past the living generation is dead or dies, or you know, it's like the now maybe it influences that current generation of making other things in the subsequent, and God could be really sneaky like that, and that's quite possible. Like the art that influences the current generation uh, itself dies, but the current generation creates new stuff that influence the next generation, and so on and so forth. But there are some things. It's like the tip of the distribution that persists generation to generation that are remembered. And I don't necessarily, what's really cool about history is I don't think it's always the things that are most popular in the generation that persist from one generation to that persist across generations. That's the really nifty thing, is that it's not always just the most popular. And I was thinking about a certain performer. I'll just give one example of this. So the most famous performer in the United States, I think he was the most famous, the 40s and 50s, was this guy named Liberace. Have either of you ever heard of Liberace? Now,
Mhm.
I bet Noah has, because Noah's pretty well read. But like most Americans my age and younger have never heard of Liberace. They do not know who he is, like vast majority. Whereas someone like Frank Sinatra, who was in the similar time frame, he's known and remembered. And that's interesting. That Sinatra is like really well known. Liberace is not. And anyway, so I think about these things, like the art that actually persists, that stays. Like Chad, maybe 2 weeks ago, Chad sent me the Pink Floyd album, The Wall, and he's like, "Have you ever listened to the album, The Wall?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've listened to most songs on an album." He's like, "No, no, no. Have you ever listened to the album?" And I'm like, "Man, fine, I'll listen to it." So he sends me the album. And I listened to The Wall, the whole album, and it's stood the test of time. It's really good. Like it's really good. It's just as how can I say, it fits today just as well as then, where just another brick in the wall. It's like what the meaning, the same meaning crisis has been going on for 75 years. And Pink Floyd nailed it with that album. And so yeah, my point is, like, I think time does really play a role in the good art. But yeah, most people don't respond well to that answer. They don't like that answer. Like C.S. Lewis, another case in point. Like he's more popular now than when he was alive. A lot of Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah, I don't know if I would agree that the things that survive are the best. Um, I'd say that there are, and this is where I would actually go to C.S. Lewis. I think that was really helpful. His book that I just finished. I've been talking about it a little bit on this stream, is an experiment in criticism, in which he says the way that you can evaluate a work uh, isn't by saying something is good or bad, um, because it's not that's too simple. It's something closer to a good reading or a bad reading, um, and uh, if you have a good reading of a work, you're gonna have a positive impression of it. Um, but even if you don't like it and other people do like it, they have a good reading of it, and that will also influence your opinion of that work, even if you don't like it yourself. Um, and so in that way, right? I mean, I'm gonna get into this. Probably I'll make a video,
Well,
but like,
I've got
Afriel was
another
asking a
example I'd like to
question.
throw at you, but
Oh,
yeah, but finish your thought. But I've got another example I want to throw at you.
yeah.
See what you think. But
Well, I think he talks about like how do we talk to people, especially around like this little corner, or um, he points out like people like Matt Walsh or like Home Math or something, right? Who will say like anime and video games are not valid forms of art, that they're like trash. And how do you communicate that to someone? And part of that is like, first of all, you need to provide like how has this type of art had an effect on you? And if you're able to communicate that well, I think that's kind of the core of what makes good art.
okay, the the terrible example that I'm going to throw at you is okay. So imagine Sam the Unitarian is right. Okay, now if Sam the Unitarian is right, then well, okay, so if time doesn't really have a bearing on it, then so okay, so if Sam the Unitarian is right, then God is perfectly fine with the majority having the wrong position for 1700 years. And maybe God's fine with the majority having the wrong position for 1700 years because 1700 years is absolutely nothing in the span of history that's going to unfold over the coming millions or billions of years of Christ being Lord of all. So maybe the 1700-year mistake of Trinitarianism, or maybe the mistake of Trinitarianism goes on for 5,000 years, but maybe it's still just a fart in the wind and it disappears after the 5,000 years, and then the Unitarian truth can be proclaimed to all the universe following that mistake. It does take us very long time to let's say it took 1,000 years before Jesus came, so it might take 2,000 years before the Unitarians finally, see the truth revealed. Um, but that's one thing. The the second thing is, maybe God enjoys, you know, accomplishing the right thing in a subtle way, while on the surface it appears to be the wrong way. So maybe on the surface it appears that politics is what makes the world and might makes right, but maybe God enjoys smuggling in changes under the surface to the extent that the fewest possible people notice in the least possible way that they notice. And so in that case, maybe all the wrong dogmas could be used as a cover to allow God and the Holy Spirit to truly work. Um, but I don't like that, because I do like the idea of the church as a place that is meant to shepherd souls. And it seems counterintuitive that a church would be able to successfully shepherd souls armed with the wrong propositional knowledge. As little as we respect propositional knowledge within the corner, I would think that having the right propositional knowledge armed with the right spiritual knowledge and teaching would be better than just having the spiritual stuff where the propositional stuff is wrong on the surface. And so I don't think, and Jesus during his teaching time and time again, breaks his parables down and say, like, do you not understand this? Let me teach it to you straight. Jesus does do that. And the parables hit harder over the long term, over the arc of history, like something like the prodigal son. But Jesus does say things directly when his disciples don't get it. They still don't get it, and we still don't get it. And but anyway, so what I'm saying is that I do think history has something to teach us. I do think history matters. And I do suspect that, say, the history of the history books from like 500 years ago is largely settled and will not be fundamentally changed in the next 500 years. Meaning, 500 years from now, I would be really surprised if there's some obscure Italian Renaissance artist that takes priority over Michelangelo and Raphael and Leonardo DiCaprio, Da Vinci. Um, I'd be really surprised if that happens. You know what I mean? Like history tends to be settled, but it takes more than the current living generation to settle it. It takes maybe I would wager like 100 or 200 years at least, or at least the current political order to kind of blow over in the next paradigm. Now I would say the 75-year meaning crisis of World War II is the paradigm that we're in. Takes that paradigm in order to unveil the truth or finalize the truth. And it's not completely final, but mostly finalize the truth of like the Victorian era, for example. Um, yeah. And we don't constantly rewrite history. Like we don't do it. And there's a reason for that. I mean, it's possible a civilization collapse completely rewrites history, but like, I don't know. God has promised not to destroy the world. So I, anyway, that's a lot of stuff. Come at me, bros.
Yeah, it sounds like you're just really Catholic. I don't know. That's kind of I know that's kind of silly to say, but there's a like I don't have any problem with the idea that God, oh no, it went away. That people could be wrong for a really long amount of time. Like I think part of my Protestant uh upbringing is a lot of people were really wrong for a long point of time, and some of it comes back and some of it goes away, and some things are forgotten and some things are remembered. Um, and you know,
Yeah.
people could be way wrong. I mean, like for example, like for a moment there, like in the Bible and in reality, right? Like Saint Maximus the Confessor was the last guy who stood the line pretty much in saying in holding a traditional theology of the Trinity. Um, Elijah was being fed by ravens in the wilderness. Um, and he was the last one who was holding to um, the worship of the of you know the guy, the the God of Israel. Um, and so times like that happen, and people are led astray, and they'll come back. But um, it doesn't really it it bothers me in the way that I'm not comfortable that is the case, but it doesn't perplex me or you know confuse me as much. I hope that wasn't too dismissive. I don't want it to be dismissive, but
No. I like the idea of God being both hidden and not hidden, and obvious and not obvious. I think uh I think an omnipotent uh and loving God can do both things at the same time, and will notice some and not notice others.
doesn't the
And
Catholic Church call that like the seeds of the word that are seen in every culture or something like that? I think that's Second Vatican.
yeah, I think I may have heard that expression.
I've been reading
Um,
Crossing the Threshold of Hope by uh John Paul II,
oh, cool.
I think.
Yeah, I've only read a couple of things from John Paul II, Saint John Paul II.
Oh, is he a saint now?
Oh yeah, he's
Oh, okay.
canonized. Yeah,
I feel like that's not that fast, I guess. There's a saint from like the 90s now, right? So,
yeah. No, you're right. Carlo Acutis. You can look him up. I think he was 15, something like that.
finally have a good internet saint to look up to and not, you know, some
Yeah.
who was the saint of the internet for a while? It was like just
Look-
like a scientist guy or something like that.
No, this guy, yeah, legit kid. So
Mhm.
The
At
thing is that you can make the argument that time will tell which works of art are the best. Um, it could also happen that uh, there is a work of art that's really good, and then there is a fire and it burns, so you never see it again. But the argument still holds even in that point. The thing is that you're still with the problem of Okay, but what was the spirit by which that work of art became so good? What was it that made it? Because you can't go out there and start doing a thing and not want it to be good. You have to move in some direction.
Well,
If
this
you
this is a
go around,
really
random.
this is a really dangerous question, Nico. You probably won't like this question, but that's okay. I'm going to ask it anyway. Where does art end and life begin? Like, was the crucifixion a work of art? Did Christ enter into his passion as a demonstration of the truest love? You know, is that an artistic act in that he's pointing us to, well, he's pointing us to the Father, but he also says, you know, I will be raised up. What's the exact line? And I will, after I am raised up, I will draw all men. Or no, I will draw all men toward me or to me or something like that. So is that not an artistic act, the act of pointing?
Um, well, now you just made it much more complicated. Is that an artistic art? Well, give me a definition of art, and I'll tell you.
I'll give you a definition. I think art is something that points beyond what it is to something that's transcendent, to something that's eternal. And so the best art is pointing most clearly to the thing that's most transcendent, most eternal.
Let's do like a behold. What's the Socrates line, or the, not the Socrates, who is it? There's like a philosopher,
You mean
where Plato,
Plato's
yeah,
and
Plato's man,
the chicken?
the chicken. He plucks a chicken and he says, "Behold,
No, this is
Plato's
not
man."
Plato. This is just
No, no, no,
it's
no,
not
no, no,
Plato.
no,
It's
no,
just
no.
it's just
Neil,
Nelio, man. It's just Nelio.
Neil. Okay, but Nelio. So it's like, behold, Nelio's art, and it's just the equation 2 + 2 = 4, holding it up. 2 + 2 =
That's
4
postmodern. It's
points to
post-modernity in a nutshell. Yeah, yeah.
points to something beyond itself. It does. It's a it is the mathematical structure of the universe. Diogenes, thank you ad nauseum. It's Diogenes who said that. Behold a man. Isn't,
Okay,
yeah.
there's this. I'm gonna try to tell this story in Babylon 5. It's a Babylon 5 scene. I'm gonna spoil it. I'm gonna try to tell it in very short form. So this master is teaching his students, and um and so one. Okay, there were two students, and they were in a kind of a bad part of town, and one of them heard like a cry for help, and he said, "Oh, we should investigate. We should try to see what's going on and stop it." And the other one says, like, "No, it's not our concern. Like, it's none of our business. We're not from here. This isn't our problem." And so the one goes, but the other one does not go. And the one who goes, he intervenes, and I think he saves a woman's life, or prevents her from getting raped or something like that. But he gets beat up and he almost killed, like put into the hospital as a result. Um, and so afterwards, the one who does not go is talking to the master, and the master says, like, "Why didn't you go? Were you afraid?" And he's like, "No, no, of course not." Or it wasn't the fear of getting hurt; it was the fear of doing something or dying, and it's meaningless, in that that his death would have no meaning. And so then the master tells the student a parable, and he says, "Okay, so imagine that I asked you to go and fetch this flower, and you would go and fetch the flower, but on the journey you'd run out of food and water, and you'd bring you'd get the flower, but you would die on the journey, but the flower would come to me. Would would you find that meaningful?" And he's like, "No, of course not. It's pointless. It's just a stupid flower." And then the master's like, "Okay, so imagine that I ask you to go and pick this flower, and the flower is on a mountain that is the holy mountain of your people, and bringing the flower back to your people, yes, you would die, but that flower would be a symbol of the perseverance of your people, such that they would win their freedom and achieve victory over that which is enslaving them. Would you find that meaningful? And the guy's like, oh yeah, absolutely, that would be a meaningful death, and I would be courageous in doing that. And the master says to him, well, then you see, we can only, I'm going to mess up the point, but basically the master says, like, we can't choose the circumstances of how or why we die, nor do we understand the parameters by which our actions are having an effect. We don't understand the ripples in the pond, so to speak. And so all we can do is act based on the goodness in and of itself. I don't know why I tell that story. I think, but sorry. Yeah. I don't know why I tell that story. I'm sorry.
Well, I think
Yeah, I was gonna say.
there's an definitely an aspect of the narratives we live by are incredibly important, and they're a part of the art itself. And that's kind of what I was trying to get at with the readings, right? Because when we read, we are kind of exposing ourselves to a bunch of like themes and things like that, and you can either give into the narrative, but then you also have your own internal narrative that's interacting with it, and sometimes they're not in alignment, and you're not going to find anything out of it. And there's other times where they are in alignment, and something like beautiful occurs, and you're changed forever, and it's just not going to strike everybody. You know, some people will think that's just really stupid. Some people will find, you know, anime art styles to be beautiful, and
Mhm.
different openness.
But again, I bet the question on whether anime is beautiful is not going to be answered in the lifetime of Matt Walsh. It's just not going to be answered. So he's probably wrong, by the way. But I apologize, lads. I have to
I
vamoose.
am also
It's been a
closing
pleasure.
the stream. Do
Closing time.
either of you have last words you want to give before we do so?
Um, no, it's okay.
Okay, sounds good.
I wanted to apologize for my heresies that will inevitably be discovered hundreds or thousands of years from now, since the internet is forever. And I want to say that regardless of how theology evolves over the coming millennia to tens to hundreds to millions of years, I love God. I love you guys. I love TLC in that order. And thanks be to God.
Okay. Ad nauseum says make great art. Sounds pretty good. Um, yeah, I think what you should do is you should never apologize about your heresies. I believe all the heresies that I espoused in this video, and I might change my mind in the future, but who knows? That's my response. Okay, I'm stopping the stream.